All right. Should be streaming now. It'll take a minute for the chat to come in. Hello, everyone. We had internet trouble there. Come on back if you can. I am in the process of getting Goji's stream set back up here so that he can be on the screen with me. Bear with me, folks. If you're coming in, thank you for your patience. And here we go. I am back. No way. Thank you for being here. I am in the process of doing everything that I normally do pre-show right now. So give me a second here. I will be doing it all live right in front of you folks. So fun. And I'm trying to get Gojitron's camera back up. So I'm going to switch over to his camera. You're going to see his symbol on the screen as I try to get him. Boom. All right, and now the last thing I got to do is to try to get the stream feed going here. Can you see the stream feed, Gojitron?
I cannot.
Okay.
The Illuminati tried to take us out, folks. That's what happened. They didn't like what we were saying. Get your tinfoil hats out.
Oh, just for you, Gojitron. I'm already ready for you, bro.
There it is.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, they didn't like us talking about that woke shit, so they cut us off there. Thank you there, YouTubes. It wasn't YouTube. It was actually my crappy internet here. So that's what happened. We'll see if everybody can hop back in here in just a second. There we go, and start, and let's see if you can see that stream feed now, Goji.
Yep, there we go.
All right, good deal. Let those lights off real quick. Make sure we're not getting any bleed over on sound. All right, so there we go. I'll take my foil hat.
It's live TV, folks. This is how the sausage gets made.
Oh yeah, and you know how the difference between sausage and potted meat. You know, they make the sausage out of everything that's left over on the floor after they get through cutting up the pig. They make potted meat out of everything that they scrape out of the corners and out of the crack in the floor. Welcome back, Jesse. Welcome back, Rickster, Boba Hicks, Nightbot. Welcome back. I think I'm gonna turn that thing off one of these days. And yes, we are back. Thank you so much for. For that, let me refresh this and see if I can get my featured chat back working again. Let me tell everybody welcome back in the chat, and that will be my first test message. And yes, there we go. So the chat should be working there. All right. Where were we? I don't know where we actually were when it said poof.
Well, we were talking about Superman, and I was talking about how the most important part of Superman's character is his moral center that he got from his human parents.
The last thing Shaitan's Hammer said was he didn't mind the new suit, but he was very skeptical of James Gunn. Can you address him on that? Because I certainly can as well.
I mean, that remains to be seen. I'm not going to judge the work until I see the work, because preview images and behind-the-scenes photos and whatever only tell you so much. We don't know what the story is. We don't know what the characterization is going to be. We don't know how that actor is going to portray the character. I really can't judge anything until I see it.
And that's true. And I'm going to give him a chance. However, what I have seen distresses me slightly, Gojitron, I kind of touched on this with someone else on the internet, and they kind of told me to just hang on. I already know what James Gunn is capable of. We've already seen his movies and what they're like. The Guardians of the Galaxy being a perfect example, and I thought those were great movies. The Peacemaker series I thought was a pretty good series for being what it was. However, we're seeing a lot of people bitching about the costume, which no Superman costume and no interpretation has been exactly what's been in the comics, and it never will. The closest was Christopher Reeve, and who looked like he stepped off the cover of Action Comics drawn by Kurt Swan. We're never going to get that again, folks. So don't even put your bar that high. However, what I have seen that distresses me is the sheer number of characters that he's trying to put in this movie that's supposed to be the foundation for a new DC universe, starting with Superman. So he's going to put in Guy Gardner. He's going to put in Hawk Girl. He's going to put in Mr. Terrific and a baby of other characters. And the costumes look pretty awful on all of those, but there may be a reason for that. Maxwell Lord somehow is going to enter into the mix. And of course, how can Superman be the main character if he has so many other characters vying for the spotlight in his own movie? Can you do that? Yes, you can. But in my opinion, you have to build up to that. And it's like they're not. What do you think, Goji?
Yeah, it depends on how they're going to approach it. I mean, we don't need to see origin stories for these characters anymore. We don't need to see Krypton explode again. Everybody knows that story. We don't need to see the Waynes killed again. Everyone knows that story. Everybody knows Uncle Ben died. You know, we don't need to see the origins anymore. So we can, with these new interpretations, they can get into the meat of the characters, skip over the origin. We know that already, and then tell whatever story they want to tell. And yeah, it's concerning whenever there's too many characters. Usually the movie doesn't do all that well. Justice League was bad. The Black Adam movie was bad. What are some other ones? Spider-Man 3, when they put in too many villains. You know, the Sam Raimi, the third Spider-Man movie. But then again, like you said, James Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy. 5 main characters that nobody knew anything about. And he pulled that off. So it remains to be seen.
I had from the person I was talking with about that. He said, well, wait a minute. What about Endgame? Endgame had all those characters in it. But the point of Endgame was, could you have done Endgame at the very beginning of the Marvel Universe? Could you have done Endgame instead of the first Iron Man?
Oh, no, not at all. You couldn't even have done Avengers properly without doing the solo films for Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, and Hulk first. You know, that's where Justice League went wrong. They wanted to do Justice League right away after Batman v Superman. They didn't build up to it. So yeah, when you're doing a film like Guardians of the Galaxy or even the X-Men films, those usually focus on a few main characters, and there are always characters that get kind of left out. But with Avengers, there were no characters that got left out because you built up to all of them ahead of time. Maybe Hawkeye got left out a little bit. But other than that, it depends on your approach.
And Sean brings up the point that the DC extended or cinematic universe that we've been subjected to from Zack Snyder was generally terrible. However, the animated universe, the Bruce Timm universe, pretty much nailed it. And even it had its own changes, but we didn't mind those changes because it was all based upon the foundation of what the character was that we talked about earlier.
Right. And then the animated universe really is a completely different animal because you're talking about hundreds of episodes over the course of, when did Batman the Animated Series begin? 93. And then Justice League Unlimited went all the way up to 2000 and whatever it was, 2004, I think. So that was almost a decade of storytelling over hundreds of episodes.
And we were talking about when we got cut off earlier, we were talking about Superman's core character as well. Superman is an interesting character, and a lot of people will go, "Oh, he's too much of a Boy Scout." That's the whole purpose, folks. This is a man who has almost unlimited godlike powers and chooses to do good with them.
Mm-hmm.
We've already seen what happens when a person has too much power. We've seen plenty of movies, The Watchmen being a perfect example, and that movie was made for that purpose. What if real people had superpowers? They would become assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And The Boys, which I don't watch, but apparently that's the same idea. If people had these kinds of superpowers in reality, they would become a monster. And the fact that Superman has not, and Batman in the comics expounds upon this every once in a while, that, if anyone else had these powers, I would probably have to take them out. But because it's Superman with these powers, because it's Clark with these powers, and I rest at ease. He will not break his morality for any reason whatsoever. He is always going to fight for the common good, period. Always. Even at his own expense.
And that's
you
okay.
Cannot write that, yes. You cannot write that character any other way, and if you do, it's not Superman. And that's my opinion. What do you think, Goji?
I think it's okay to have characters that can be the ideal to which we strive toward. It's okay for Superman and Captain America and Optimus Prime and He-Man to be the symbols of good. You don't have to bring them down to our level. We're at our level. We know what we are. If we want to see a flawed person, we can go look in the mirror. Those type of characters should be ideals that we strive toward. And that's okay. You don't have to break them down or bring them down or make them more flawed. That's not the point of those characters. There are plenty of characters you can do that with. Batman is flawed. Batman is traumatized. That's why he does what he does. You can explore different themes with Batman. You can explore different themes with a character like Wolverine. There's plenty of different characters that you can explore different themes with. You don't have to pigeonhole a character into a certain idea that you want to expound on. There's other characters you can do that with, or here's a crazy idea, create your own character, which is something we used to do. All of this stuff was new at some point, and no one wants to make anything new anymore. They just want to keep strip mining all these old properties, and that's a finite business model. I think it's at some point we're gonna run some of these properties dry, and no one's gonna care anymore. Like they did with the Westerns back in the day, back in the 40s and 50s. They made so many Westerns that everyone stopped caring.
Yeah, and well, that brings up the point about superhero fatigue. Do we suffer from superhero fatigue, or is there a such thing? I think there is, and I think that we've about superheroed it out, just like all the rest of the genres, as you were talking about. At one time, Westerns were what it was. They were on TV, they were in the movies, and that was all that there was. And then that kind of what flowed over into sci-fi, which still is a thing, but it's not like it used to be because it has changed over to superheroes. Superheroes are everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So the fatigue comes from the bad, the quality of the product. Right now with streaming, we're pushing out more entertainment than ever before. Are there enough quality writers to write all these different movies, all these different episodic television shows? Is the quality going to be there time after time? And it's not. The more quantity you get, the less quality you get. That's true for everything. And it's true for entertainment. So the more superhero stuff they push out, the less quality overall is going to be, and people are going to lose interest because it's not good product anymore.
I'm going to go back to some of my talking points here for a minute. We've kind of gone way off the rails here, and that's the way it always goes, folks. What I want to touch on right now are evergreen properties. And if you've never heard that term before, it means a property that transcends time, that every time you pick it up, it's going to be pretty much what it always has been. And some of the most popular characters that we've had over the years are what I call evergreen. That being Superman, Batman, the DC heroes, the Marvel heroes, Doctor Who, Star Wars. So He-Man is a perfect example of our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have been around all the whole time. Transformers, they've been around the whole time. Have they changed? Yes. But the core of them has not, and that's what's made them evergreen. Do you want to take an evergreen property and turn it into a finite story that has a beginning and a middle and an end where the character actually comes to an end? For instance, do we want to see Batman age completely out and turn his cowl over to somebody else, a la Iron Man giving over to Riri Williams, or a la Steve Rogers giving over to Bucky and then Falcon in the Marvel universe? Do we want to see that happen? Progression means that characters develop, age, change, and even die. It's what I wrote. The story may even be something totally different. Just a few years from now, the character might not even be the same anymore. He could leave or even die. Now, there's nothing wrong with telling that story. And the story might even come to a conclusion at a point where there's no more story to tell. So now the franchise would be dead at that point. Do we want to take an evergreen property and turn it into that? That's kind of the question that's coming to my mind right now, because that seems to be what they want to do, like in the Marvel universe, for instance. But that's the road they were taking at one point there, and possibly even in the DC universe with Batman Incorporated and the way that they were going. Do we want to do that? Now, I can't answer those questions. When I'm looking at Star Wars, Doctor Who, Superman, Batman, He-Man, I can't answer those questions. I ask myself these. Do we want to take those properties and turn them into this? Can we tell that story? Well, we certainly can tell that story, but do we hit the reset button afterwards and start over again? If we do, and how many times can you do that with the property? Now the last thing I said was sometimes when we don't get what we want out of our property, He-Man being maybe an example of that, it doesn't destroy what you already have. Especially as a toy collector, we have toys, and we can play with our toys however the hell we want and make up our own stories. But then someone else brought up another point. That's not bad, because we make these stories up for ourselves, but can we allow someone else the opportunity to do the same, even if we're not in control of the character? Or could we do anthology stories with these characters where, and I've seen novels of Batman do this, where you give a writer the Batman, you say, okay, here's the Batman character, you do what you want to with it. It's not going to affect anything after it's over. Is that a way to go, Gojatron?
That's a lot to chew on. So can we tell these stories where characters have mortality, where they die, where they're replaced? Yeah, we have. We have done plenty of those. There's been what-if stories. They've been in Elseworld stories. They've done those things, and then going back to status quo dozens of times in the comics. These are fictional characters. You can pretty much do whatever you want with them. So, yeah, it is possible to tell that story. What if Batman retires and hands the cowl over to someone else? Yeah, that's Batman Beyond. We told that story. It was very successful. And when Batman, had his back broken, he had went to Azrael and then to Dick Grayson. We told that story. As long as you return to status quo and give people the real Batman at some point, you can tell those stories. These are fictions. You can do whatever you want. I think one of the sticking points, I'm going to bring up a very non-controversial topic right now, Star Wars. I think one of the sticking points with Star Wars is Lucasfilm is telling us this is one timeline and that's it, and this is what happened to your characters. And that's a problem with Star Wars. They're not giving themselves any wiggle room to tell different interpretations of different characters. It's like all one strict timeline. Whereas Marvel and DC, you have the multiverse. You can do whatever the hell you want. You know, James Gunn's movies are not going to be connected to the Robert Pattinson the Batman. And the Robert Pattinson the Batman is not going to be connected to the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. These are all told in their own little pockets of reality. And that's okay. When you come out and say, this is what's going to happen here, it's not affecting this, then people can enjoy that for what it is. You know, take that on its own merit and don't worry about how it interconnects with everything else. I think the strict adherence to a continuity is kind of a creative hindrance for a lot of people. They have to fit their ideas into this little box. Whereas when you have ideas like a multiverse or a what if or an Elseworlds, you are free to tell different stories without worrying about how it's going to affect this, that, or the other. And I think Marvel Phase 1 did a great job connecting all those films. But now that Endgame is over and everyone's trying to tell different stories now, that's become a hindrance. Which is why I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with Deadpool and Wolverine next week. That's the first Marvel movie I've been looking forward to in quite a while, because now you're reaching from out of the confines of what we knew as the MCU, and now you're reaching into the X-Men universe, which was always separate. How are they going to incorporate that? How are they going to bring that in? What story is going to be told there? That's interesting to me.
Now I'm going to move over to the chat here because we want to include them in our discussion as well. The books for Star Wars did a much better job of doing sequels, in Joneser's opinion. Yes. Sean says passing of torch is fine, but there always needs to be a finite canon to return to. I think that would be the status quo or the reset button being pressed there, as talked about. Didn't like Revelation, but did enjoy the Masterverse toy line, says Joneser. Let's see. Richter says it's hard to live in the world of 4 mini comics. The very first 4 is what he's talking about. Those are the ones I live in as well. When you know in the back of your head that there is an Adam or a Cringer, I don't mind those both existing, but they are 2 separate storylines. They have nothing to do with each other. They just have similar characters and names and motivations. If that makes any sense. No Way Farms asks a question. Farscape thoughts. I'll let you run with that one because I'm not a Farscape.
I never watched Farscape, unfortunately. Cannot speak to it.
Shaitan's Hammer says Farscape is awesome, so maybe we need to check into that sometime. I have only so much that can fit into my old head these days, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, from the 90s to the early 2000s, there was so much television sci-fi that I just didn't have time to watch. All the Star Trek stuff and Stargate stuff and Farscape and Andromeda and all that stuff. A lot to catch up on from that era.
Let's see what Jess is saying here. Jess says there are parts of the EU that he likes, such as Thrawn, but I do not like the Yuzun Vong stuff. It's hard to tell stories in an expanded universe because it allows flexibility without affecting canon. Shaitan's Hammer, Adam and Cringer exist in a bubble in my head, and kind of treat He-Man as He-Man. There's nothing wrong with there being a multiverse or different stories being told with the same character. The point that it being, whether you're looking at the mini comic He-Man or you're looking at the filmation He-Man, he has a core value that is the same in both of those. And I'll give you a perfect example of a show that went in a total different direction than what I expected it to go in, but stayed so very true to the spirit of the show, and that was the CGI animated He-Man show that they did for children. I don't know if you saw any of that, Dojitron, but that was good.
I've heard it was good, yes.
I didn't collect the toys or anything, and it wasn't made for me, as an adult. But I did watch it and I did enjoy it. And I had no problem with that. And I didn't have any problem with some of the changes that were made, radical changes that were made, because it still stayed within the spirit. But what's happening with properties like Doctor Who and the Acolyte here recently is that they've strayed too far off course. Your thoughts on that, Goji?
Yeah, I agree. Like I was saying before, the foundational elements. Like I think all iterations of He-Man kind of keep the same foundation. Even I know people had a problem with Revelation. I thought Revolution improved upon that. But there were elements in those shows that were very much like He-Man. Like in Revelation, they have the big final battle in front of Castle Grayskull, and He-Man shows up, and he says to the people fighting, "Find safe positions." And they say, "There are no safe positions." And He-Man says, "Oh, there's one behind me." And he raises his sword and he gets on Battle Cat and he goes into battle. And that was awesome. So there are, there are good things about each iteration of He-Man that you can find that keep those, the spirit, the foundation, the same thing we've been saying. You call it the spirit of the character. I call it the foundation.
Exactly, and we're both on the same sheet of music here now. As we get into the second hour here, even after going through all of the mess that we went through earlier, I've got another set of talking points that we can start getting into, but we probably won't be able to finish these on today's show. This is a deep topic, folks. There's cultural impacts and stuff like that. Do we need to do that? Do we need to have those characters become symbols of broader social movements, or show that? Do we need to have all this diversity? And that there's an answer to that, and that is yes. The diversity has always been there. Use what's already there, and no, it doesn't have to be changed. All the red-haired people don't have to be changed to a different race, because we need to have diversity. What are your thoughts on that, Gogatron?
Like I said, there's always been diversity in what we've watched. The problem has always been who's writing these characters and how are they presented. Like if you look back at Super Friends, almost right away they introduced the different ethnic superheroes: Black Vulcan, Apache Chief, Samurai, and El Dorado. But for the most part, they were stereotypes, Whenever you see a Native American superhero, he's always a shaman-like character or something like that. It's how you write these characters and how you write them as real people that's the issue. The diversity is there. The characters are there. The characters are waiting for a writer to bring them out and uplift them and reveal them to people. Like, we'll go back to James Gunn, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody knew who the hell they were in the general public. A tree and a raccoon, what's that all about? James Gunn found a way to make those appealing to a wide popular audience. And there are plenty of different characters in our canons that are waiting for that chance for someone to pluck them out and say, hey, this character's great. There are no bad characters, only bad writers, right? That's the old cliche.
Right.
The characters they want exist. There's no need to change and modify. And if you change and modify, tell a different story, tell an Elseworld story, or just create a different character. If you want a character with a certain set of values to represent a certain thing, create the character and tell the story. At one point, all this stuff was new. If you make it entertaining enough, people will watch it, they will respond to it. I don't know if the problem right now is lack of talent in Hollywood, or if the studios don't want to finance new ideas. Is it a talent problem, or is it a studio problem, or maybe it's a little of both? I don't know. Are the studios not willing to finance new ideas, or do they just want to keep mining the old ideas? Because looking back, I was looking back since the turn of the century in Hollywood at what came from Hollywood, what came from film that was not a sequel, reboot, or an adaptation. And the only things I could think of were Avatar and The Fast and the Furious. Everything since the turn of the century has been Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, DC, Godzilla, Star Wars, all the same stuff. So where is the originality? Because in the 70s and 80s, we had nothing but original properties coming from film. They didn't come from comics first. They didn't come from animation first. They came from film and then branched off from there. And Hollywood seems to have lost that ability or that will to create things from film and then branch from there.
Could it be because they're afraid to do something new, because they're afraid it will fail, and they want to take something that's established and been making money for years and redo that to try to chase that will-o'-the-wisp there and try and mine that or milk that cow dry? That'd be what it is, Goji.
I mean, it's always been about money, but like I said, some of these projects have been failing, and they've obviously been failing from the first minute the trailer gets released. People say they're not going to watch it, they don't like it, and then they go ahead with it anyway. So is it still about money? What is it about now? I can't put my finger on what Hollywood is trying to accomplish right now.
All I can do is go by what I read in the media, and some of that is very, very biased, and so you have to read it with a certain level of intellectuality.
Right.
Reading between the lines.
Yeah, there's bias on both sides.
Yes, it is. But what I get out of that is that they think that there is a new modern audience for all of these characters that does not want the characters to be what they've always been. So they don't care about their core audience, the one that's been their bread and butter all these years. We don't care what you think. We want to get these new people to come in. But my problem with that is, where are the new people? Let's look at the viewing figures for Doctor Who and the Acolyte, for example. So, we're told that this isn't for us, or that we're ists and phobes if we don't like it. So get out. We don't need you anyway. So we said, okay, fine, bye. And we went out and left and stopped spending our money on said properties. But where's all the replacements that were supposed to come in? I think that the character who played the Maestro in Doctor Who said, get out. We don't need you anymore. For every one of you that leaves, there'll be 3 of these others coming in. Where are they? The viewing figures certainly don't show it. They're the worst viewing figures that Doctor Who has ever seen in the entirety of the show since it's restarted in 2004.
Well, that's the BBC's problem. And now I guess Disney's problem, since they're putting up some of the money. But then Disney's used to losing money at this point.
They certainly are, and it seems to me like that they've lost their way in just about all of their properties. They've lost Mom. Used to, Mom was the one that would turn on Mickey Mouse and Disney shows and leave the child unattended in front of that media device, knowing that the child was in safe hands. And now Mom will not do that anymore. What have you done, Disney? And why? And yes, there's been plenty of examples of the people in charge saying things that are disturbing.
Yeah, there has been. But with entertainment, I like to take things on their own merit. If I see a trailer and it looks interesting, I'll give it a shot. If I see a trailer and it looks boring, I'm not going to waste my time. I mean, as far as Star Wars is, I watched Ahsoka because I liked Rebels. I wanted to see what was going on with those characters. I watched Andor because I liked Rogue One. I wanted to see what was going on with those characters. I didn't watch Obi-Wan because I'm not a big fan of the prequels. And I didn't watch The Acolyte because it looked boring. So, I'm just going to take the entertainment on its own merits. Hollywood people have always been out of touch. They've always said stupid things, especially in these days of social media. When everybody can say anything they want on Twitter, on X, on whatever. And I just I don't listen to any of that noise. I need to take the entertainment as it's presented to me on its own merit. And, there's going to be people on both sides whipping up a frenzy for their own purposes, right? People that are creating the shows want to, get people all riled up to raise their own profile. People on the other side are going to complain about the thing nonstop so they can get the clicks on their YouTube channel, whatever they're doing. it's all noise, and you got to learn to cut out all the noise and just take things as they're presented.
It's a good point, Gojitron, and I want to reiterate because the chat is just and thank you guys for coming back after our little hiccup earlier. Here's the thing: there are those people who do like what's going on right now, and they do like these movies, and they're perfectly entitled to those opinions, and I hope they're happy. There's another group of people who do not like what it is, and they don't like it at all. And some of them are not liking it simply because it's changed. And some of them are not even giving it a chance. And that's perfectly okay too. But then there's people like, I guess me, I want to include you in on that Gojitron because I think you're entitled to your own opinion as well. But there are those like me who think, I want to watch this and enjoy it, and right now I'm not, so I'm not going to watch it. Do not hate watch this stuff, folks. If you're not enjoying what you're watching, find something that you do enjoy and watch it. Don't give your money to something that you don't like, because by doing that, you're supporting it. Stop supporting it, and maybe it'll change.
Yeah, and everybody's entitled to watch what they want, enjoy what they want. If people want to watch the new Doctor Who, if they enjoy that, great. Watch it, enjoy it. You know, I can't say anything about what people watch. I've been watching Godzilla movies since 1976, and most of them are pretty damn stupid. So I can't really criticize what people watch. Watch what you like, enjoy it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. But don't go on the internet and constantly complain and bitch and moan and just turn the dial, because the people creating these shows don't care how much you bitch and moan on the internet. They care about the ratings.
And you would think that because the ratings are in the tank that they might fix things instead of doubling down on them. Like you said, we can't put our finger on that. What is the purpose behind that? Some of us, and I will put this back on my head again, think that probably there is some sort of an agenda going on there, and that perhaps they are trying to mess with people's heads. But that's a whole different show. And I don't like to get into conspiracy theories here, but it's not a conspiracy theory when it turns out to be true. I'm looking at you, CIA and MK Ultra. But anyway, getting back to reality for a minute here, Godzilla is a perfect example of what I was trying to talk about with the progression of a character. So we've seen the Showa era Godzilla, which changed within its era to become Godzilla being a force of nature, destroying everything, and all you can do is endure it and wait it out, to Godzilla being the hero of Earth, protecting it from the three-headed monster Ghidorah, who came from Planet X to destroy the Earth, and becoming the hero of the world, and being friends with all the monsters on Monster Island, within one era. And then we came over to the Heisei era, where they used the original Godzilla movie as their base and said, "Oh, the rest of this never happened. Let's skip all the way to now, 1985. I guess it was 1985, and start over again with Godzilla Returns or Godzilla 1985, and go forward." And even then, it went from the Japanese version and the American version, which included Perry Mason in it again, Raymond Burr, as Steve Martin, the reporter, progressing into the Heisei era at its height. I want to say it actually didn't begin with Godzilla 85. It actually began with Biollante, in my opinion, which then progressed into the up to Space Godzilla, which was ridiculous but fun. And then we had the end of Godzilla and the handing over to a new Godzilla, which happened in Godzilla versus Destroy, if you remember that. I know you do. You're Gojitron, for gosh sake. I'm talking to the chat here. But then we had the movies that came, I want to call it the millennial era, with Godzilla the millennial Godzilla. Each one of those movies existed in their own universe, and nothing that happened before it had anything to do with the movie, except for one, which was Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, or Godzilla X Mechagodzilla, if I'm not mistaken. That had a sequel to it. And now we're coming into the Godzilla -1 era, and that was a damn good movie, by the way. I know you've seen it, haven't you, Goji?
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Once again, Godzilla -1, the core of Godzilla's there. He is a prehistoric monster that somehow has made it to this world, to this modern time. But they had the Bikini Atoll nuclear test turn him into an even worse thing than he was even in that movie. So that core is there, but that whole storyline is totally different than anything we've seen before. So we're not saying there's nothing wrong with changing the story. It's when you start changing what makes it that story, I think, is the conclusion that I've come to. And you already had the conclusion at the beginning of the show, Goji. That's right. When you lose the people watching it. They're like, this isn't what I want.
Yeah. As far as Godzilla, in every era of Godzilla, he represents the fear and failure of mankind. So in the original, it was during the nuclear testing phase right after World War II, when we had bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Godzilla was the embodiment of the fears of Japan about nuclear arms. When he came back in 1984, what was going on? The Cold War. And the U.S. and Russia were staring each other down, the doomsday clock at 5 minutes to midnight. Godzilla comes back during the nuclear armament era. Then in 2014, the MonsterVerse Godzilla, they kind of put a twist on that he came back because of climate change and how we were destroying the earth and how he returned to bring balance. And then, of course, Godzilla -1 went back to that original post-World War II story. So Godzilla, oh, and I forgot Shin Godzilla, which came about after the earthquake and tsunami that devastated Japan and the accident at the Nikashima nuclear plant, where they melted down and pumped millions of gallons of irradiated water into the ocean. That's what inspired Shin Godzilla. So whenever Godzilla appears, it's because we screwed up. Humanity effed up somehow, and here's Godzilla to put us in our place. So no matter where that character goes, that's his core, that's his foundation. You know, he can change his mind and defend the Earth later on if he wants. I think that's more of a territorial thing. You know, Ghidra came down from space and Godzilla said, no, this is my planet. Get lost.
Well, I'm going to wrap up our discussion and maybe have a little bit of music and fun before I stop the day here. But my conclusion to this is this. As much as all of this changes and as much as all this is unappealing to you, your childhood has not been destroyed. Your childhood is very much intact, right back where it always has been. And it's right here. And all you have to do is remember, go back. You have your collections or your toys or your DVDs or your movies, and you can live in those. I have a Doctor Who collection of DVDs going from the very first episode of Unearthly Child all the way through the Jodie Whittaker era. And I can watch any of those that I want to. And yes, I do have the reconstructions of those episodes that don't exist anymore. So I can listen to and watch those as well. So I can go back and I can relive all that. I've got my toy collection here. I can relive it through that. And I don't have to spend money on what's new that I don't like, or it's not appealing to me, or is not entertaining to me. Doesn't mean that those things go away because the new stuff is doing what it's doing. And I think that if it's not entertaining you and it's not appealing to you, don't watch it. Find something that is.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll let you have your final say. Here, Goji.
Change is inevitable. Evolve or die. That's true for everything. And it's true for entertainment. But if the evolution is not something you're on board with, yeah, like Bill just said, Movies and television have been around. Well, movies have been around for 100 years. Television's been around for, what, 70 years now? There's plenty of stuff we can watch. If you want to be entertained, there is no shortage of entertainment. So don't force yourself to watch something you don't like. Don't hate watch anything. Move on. Let the people that enjoy it. And you enjoy what you like.
Very well said, Gojatron. Of course, we haven't solved the world's problems here today, but perhaps we've given you some food for thought to maybe make your life a little better, dealing with what you have to deal with. And I want to make things better right now by doing a little bit of music. Would you like to have a little bit of music there, Gojatron, to end off the day?
Let's have some music and some fun. How's that?
Sounds like a good idea to me. Here we go, folks. Enjoy. And if you've got any suggestions, tell them in the chat now so that I can set up that if you want to do it.
In the dance of old Loch Lomond, mid the moor and heather tall, there strayed a lass named Dolly. With her pipe she could enthrall. She played a tune so haunting that the thistle bowed in grace. Her music told of heroes and of wretched Skeletor's embrace. He-Man needed saving in the shadows of Snake Mountain. Evil lurked and whispered near Skeletor's dark fountain. Down from skies came Zodak with wisdomation primal. Together they sought Ali, her bagpipes deemed essential. Ali the piper, hear her calling through the night. When Zodak she is blazing, her melody the light. To the aid of He-Man, her music's fierce and grand. Skeletor's bones are trembling within Eternia's land. Through the mists and ancient forests, under tartan skies of fire, marched Ali with her bagpipes, her heart a roaring pyre. Her notes to dance with spirits, from the isle sky to glide. Every monster in the dark would tremble then and hide. Zodak raised an astral hand, guiding through the fear. He-Man took up his sword, and light the path made clear. Songs of war and legends, scrolling in the echoes cheer. The power of Ali's piping vanquished folded sneers. Ali the piper, hear her calling through the night. When Zodak she is blazing, her melody the light. To the aid of He-Man, her music's fierce and grand. Skeletor's bones are trembling within Eternia's land. Trembling within Eternia's land.
It's time for another history lesson. Over the top and amid the carnage and confusion of no man's land stepped the Highland Regimental Bagpipers, screaming out the charge. It was the most awful music to be heard by men who have the Highlanders against them, and with fixed bayonets and hand grenades they stormed the German trenches. This is the story of the Bagpipers of World War I, the Ladies from Hell, nicknamed Die Damen aus der Hölle. Ladies from Hell by German soldiers for their distinctive tartan kilts and unparalleled bravery, the Pipers from the Black Watch, the 3rd Battalion, Royal Regiment of Scotland, garnered a fearsome reputation on the battlefields of World War I. Standing in full view of German soldiers, oftentimes armed with only their bagpipes, pipers were the first over the top, acting as a clarion call for British troops to keep moving. The sound of the bagpipes would spread terror among the German troops. When one lady from Hell fell, miraculously, another piper would seemingly arise out of the trenches to take his place. The wailing of the pipers served to rouse the troops, but it came at a great cost. An easy target for the Germans, of the 2,500 pipers who served during the Great War. An estimated 500 were killed, while another 600 were wounded.
Let's fill this thing up with a little home brew. All right. Now Huey is a guy who ain't very smart. He just rambles along in his crazy car. He shows no class and acts like a clock. And there's always a smell around Huey's hot rod. Yeah. Dio. Hardly hold his woody steering wheel. With stovepipe on top, he doesn't show much class. But there's nothing on the road that Huey can't pass. Huey's hot rod, the coolest rod on the scene. Huey's hot rod, the smelling rod, feeling mean. His roof isn't leaking and there's holes in the floor. But Huey just keeps coming back.
Hot rod ain't exactly Mr. Wayne.
Don't make a mistake and tempt him at a light, because
What are you gonna do with a kid like that? He's vicious. Doesn't brush his teeth. Doesn't comb his hair. Between his toes. Right.
Skeletor so bold, so cruel, evil in shadows dark. Pick a lock and clash like fools. Power plays ignite the spark. Evil was it all. Skeletor dreams so grand. Plans to make He-Man fall. Balloon's got her own command. Battle for eternity reigns. Might and magic clashing kings. Who will rule? Who will win? When the chaos reigns within. Skeletor so bold, so cruel, evil in shadows dark. Pick a back and clash like fools. Power plays ignite the spark. Evil wants it all. Evil wants it all. Spell it all. Wants it all. Evil wants it all. Skeletor treats the brand. Battle for eternity reigns. Light and magic clashing kings. Who will rule? Who will win? When the chaos reigns within. Skeletor seems so sly, evil in with her own plans. In the shadows she will lie, wants the power in her hands. Night falls on their dark domain, scheming hearts and endless pain. Trust is broken, words like knives, both want more than just their lives. Battle for eternity reigns. Light and magic clashing kings. Who will rule? Who will win? When the chaos reigns within. Night falls on their dark domain, scheming hearts and endless pain. Trust is broken, words like knives, both want more than just their lives. And battle for the reigns. Light and magic clashing kings. Who will rule? Who will win? When the chaos reigns within.
And welcome back, Goji Trot. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of music and fun, a little diversion from what we were talking about.
It was fun and musical.
Thank you. And Allie the Piper with that old historical lesson that I like to put on some of hers, dealing with bagpiping. Recently, we've